Hi there. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about meditation, especially in the corporate environment, where when we approach our work, we go at things with the goal of success, right? So we want to be heard in a meeting, we want our point to come across, we want our project to get approved, we want to build our relationships, we want to grow our team, we want to grow our business. And all of those things are very active and hard skills and in general succeed if we go after them pretty aggressively. And for those of us meditating in the corporate world, those two things kind of conflict. So the harder you try at meditation, the worse you're going to feel about how it's going, and the more resistance that's going to come up. So that has been the biggest challenge for me over the years, with a type A, very kind of aggressive personality in the workplace, and then trying to figure out how to balance that on my meditation cushion. So a couple of tips and tricks. Most of these come from my two teachers. So Sharon Salzberg has written a couple of books on meditation, mindfulness, happiness in the workplace, happiness at home. She studied in India before it was like the thing to do back in the 70s, and learned from some amazing meditation teachers, and now teaches herself. And my other teacher is Rolf Gates, who has also written a couple of books, Meditations from the Mat, Meditations on Intention and Being, and has some really good guided meditations online that you can look for. So most of this material comes from them over the years. The practice of meditation is in fact a practice. So when you think about, I'm not good at this, I can't clear my mind, I can't sit still, we expect things to happen like really fast and for us to see benefits like in the moment, because that's how we're wired, right? Like if I do this, this will happen. What I have found is that the benefits of meditation don't come when I'm practicing, they come at game time, right? So when you think about sports and we go to practice, and you might have a good practice, or your kid might have a good practice, but when game time comes and you're put in that stressful situation, do you remember the skills that you learn? So game time for us is that annoying person at work that won't stop talking in a meeting, or the difficult project, or the difficult client, or if you're raising children, we get 20 game times a day, right? Like whether we like it or not. And what you will start to notice as you practice meditation is that those benefits of sitting on your cushion or your pillow every morning will show up in stressful situations. They're not going to show up while you're doing the practice. They show up later. And the style of meditation that I practice is called Vipassana, with a V. And it means to go in and see. So that's the translation. What we have trouble with on our meditation cushion is when we go in, we don't like what we're seeing. We don't always like what we're hearing, those voices in our head, whether or not they're judgmental or troubling in any way. The mere fact that we can hear them, we're then having a dialogue about, why am I hearing the voices in my head about what I should be doing, when I should be focusing on my breath. I'm terrible at meditation. Bridget doesn't know what she's talking about. This doesn't work. This isn't helping. Oh my God, only 30 seconds has gone by. All of those things keep coming up, right? So when we sit on our mat or our cushion, the goal is not for enlightenment and to quiet the mind. The goal is to go in and see, to observe the thoughts without attaching to them, to observe what's happening with our breath without attaching to any judgment about whether or not we're a good meditator. None of us are good meditators. Like, we're just not wired that way to just sit still and be quiet. The other part of Vipassana meditation that I think is extremely important is that we try not to move. So we're getting used to discomfort. Now, sharp shooting pain, I definitely want you to move. right? We don't want to sit in sharp shooting pain. But, if that old ankle injury from college decides to show up on your meditation cushion, or your ankle falls asleep, or your leg, starts to get sore, your shoulders feel a little tight, really try to sit with it without moving. Because then afterwards, later in the day, at game time, when something annoys you, and something will annoy you throughout your day, you're going to take that extra moment to breathe, to see if you can just deal with it instead of reacting. And your mind is not going to say, oh, this is what Bridget was talking about. This is coming up. I am going to calmly take a deep breath when this 17-year-old is telling me what she is going to do tonight instead of asking me, and I'm just going to very calmly ignore her. That's really not what's going to happen. You might be in the moment, and you might just take a half a second longer before you respond. You might not yell as loudly as you normally would do at first. You might not react in the same way. And this is going to start to show up little by little, bit by bit, over time. So be compassionate with yourself. Be gentle. It's okay if it doesn't feel like it's working. Trust me, it's working. Okay. So, a couple of other tools. I use an app on my phone called Insight Timer. It has a whole bunch of great guided meditation that I use at night sometimes to fall asleep. I want you to just use the timer when you're sitting in meditation. Do not sit against a wall. Sit freestanding. You can sit on a pillow or a cushion to elevate your hips. It will help with any hip tightness that you have. So Insight Timer, it's a free app. Hit the timer function, set it to 20 minutes, okay? 20 minutes. This is a lot. If you don't have time for 20 minutes, if you're too busy for 20 minutes, set it for 1 hour. That's a little meditation joke, right? So if you're so busy you can't fit in 20 minutes of meditation, then you get extra time, 1 hour. Here's a mistake that I made early on in meditation. If I didn't have 20 minutes, I just wouldn't do it at all. And what I learned, and it was like a surprise to me, like 10, 15, 7, 2 minutes, 1 minute are just as beneficial. But when you're first learning, I can't stress enough trying to do 20 minutes. And it might take you a while to not, get so distracted, look at your phone. I would rather, instead of building up to 20 minutes, I'd rather have you start with 20. And if you need to rest in between, lie down, take a forward fold, get a drink of water, whatever you need to do, but then come back, finish your 20 minutes. At some point, you can just hit pause on the Insight Timer. I love Insight Timer because it has charts and graphs, and being an analytics person, that excites me to track my meditation over time. So we understand a little bit about how meditation is going to show up. We understand meditation as a practice. We want to sit on a cushion or a pillow. I sit cross-legged. Some people like to sit on their knees as well, kind of like on their shins with their feet tucked behind them. I don't find that very comfortable, but you might. Hand position. I use this hand mudra, open hands with my thumbs touching. This is a grounding, centering mudra that symbolizes surrender. And I'm going to talk a little bit about surrender here. In the Western world, this translation of this mudra is "Thy will be done." So that has a little bit of Christian Judeo influence there. You'll recognize some open hand positions from standard Western religions. Do what feels comfortable for you. So cupped hands here with thumbs touching, or just having your hands on your knees open up here. We don't want to be like this in meditation or even with our hands outside. So somewhere on your lap, whatever is comfortable. So a couple things that make it easier for me. So my teacher, Rolf Gates, likes to start us with some simple movement. And he gets us moving, and I'm going to do that with you in a second. But then when we stop moving, he uses this beautiful phrase to imagine your body like a cup of water filled with sand. And after you stop moving, you allow your sand to settle and your water to clear. So you get into this movement and you kind of can just like still feel yourself moving. And then you land in this spot and you're visualizing your sand settling and your water clearing. So that's just like a really helpful mind tool. The other thing that Rolf Gates says is that we want to sit in meditation without an ounce of extra effort. So no extra effort required. We're neither coercing nor accepting. So we're not trying to make ourselves think about breath or make our thoughts go away or accepting the thoughts that are coming. We're noticing. We are not trying too hard, right? And so for those of us in the corporate world, trying really hard is what we do all day long, right? So this is a pass. This is like a free pass. You don't really have to try. You just have to sit here, right? And close your eyes and not move, right? It'll be the hardest thing that you have to do all day, which is why you're here watching this video. It's because you need it. Okay. The other thing that Rolf Gates teaches us is try this for a second. So you sit in your meditation position and you want to get kind of aggressive and trying too hard with this posture. So you're putting a big curve in your cervical spine. That's your low back. You're puffing up your chest. You know, maybe your shoulders are like kind of tight. Your chin is a little bit lifted. Maybe your eyes are lifted. You're like feeling tense. You're like, okay, here I am. I'm going to meditate. All right. And then I want you to just allow your body to soften like a bowl of ice cream. It's like kind of just let it sink. Oh, I almost knocked over my plant. All right, just like let it sink down. Get all slouchy. All right, now find the middle, somewhere in between those two. And when you find the middle, notice how it feels in the middle. And when you find the middle, can you find the moment? The moment where you can focus on your breath without an ounce of extra effort, neither coercing nor accepting. Sharon Salzberg likes to say, just one breath. And I will tell you that in a 20-minute meditation, you might find the middle and find the moment and find just one breath once or twice each minute, right? So in 20 minutes, you're finding it maybe 20 to 40 times, right? That doesn't sound like a successful meditation session, but I'm telling you, it is. And it's a practice, right? So be compassionate with yourself, be gentle with yourself. All right, I'm going to take you through a little guided meditation. We're going to start with some movement. You can really do anything, but this one is one that it just feels good in your body. So you also want to find like the same place that you're going to meditate every day and try to do it at the same time. And let the people in your life know that you're starting to meditate so that if they walk in the room and you're meditating, and like just try to ignore them. When my kids were really little, they would come up and they would just like put their hands on my face. They would go, ma, 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 ma. And I would just try to sit there, right? And it doesn't work. Like eventually you got to help these little toddlers who need you. But over time, your family then, like they'll open the door, they'll see you're meditating and they'll close the door and leave. And honestly, they'll be like, oh, thank God she's meditating today, because they start to notice the difference when you meditate or not. All right, here we go. We're going to start by just some simple movement here. Placing one hand on the ground and letting the other arm just swim overhead. And you want to do this for about a minute or so. Nothing too strenuous here, just getting the body moving. So if you were starting Insight Timer, I would give you this free minute where you can move so that you don't have to stop and start your timer. Evening out your sides here, right and left. If you don't remember which side you started with, no big deal. All right, now we're going to come back to center and allow the eyes to close. Imagine your body is a cup of water filled with sand. allowing your sand to settle and your water to clear. How does it feel to breathe in and breathe out? Noticing any thoughts that arise without attachment. Just observe the thought and let it go. Come back to the breath. And just one breath. So we're going to do that for 20 minutes at a time, just one breath, allowing the thoughts to arise and fall, not attaching to any of those thoughts. And sometimes the mind is just going to take a trip on one of those thoughts. Just gently bring it back. It might be 10 minutes later before you realize that you just took a trip with your mind. But it doesn't mean your meditation session was a waste of time. Just sitting in stillness and observing the fact that you disappeared for 10 minutes on a thought is of benefit. So good luck. Don't try too hard. And remember 20 minutes. Rolf Gates, Sharon Salzberg, great meditation teachers. Check them out. Have a wonderful day.